Over the past few years, Kawasaki has quietly discontinued several long-running motorcycles across its lineup. These weren't failed models. They were bikes riders, trusted for years. Machines that handled daily miles, long rides, and real ownership without drama. And now they're gone. No clear replacements that serve the same purpose. Today, we're breaking down 6 of those bikes, what led to their retirement, and why this shift matters if you still care about buying something built to last. Stay with this to the end, because the last one explains exactly where things are headed next. Number 6. Kawasaki Vulcan 800 Drifter. Some motorcycles never looked like products. They looked like memories managed to start and ride down the road. The Drifter was one of those machines. Before a rider heard the exhaust, before he checked the badge, he understood what it was trying to say. Deep fenders, long lines, wire wheels, a seat that sat low without making you feel trapped. It did not chase the future. It reached back toward a simpler picture of American motorcycling and made that picture feel honest coming from Japan. That honesty is why the Drifter gets respect from riders who know the difference between retro styling and real presence. Plenty of heritage bikes wear old clothes and still feel hollow. The Drifter never had that problem. It looked calm, settled, and deliberate, like a machine built for a man who cared more about the shape waiting in the garage than whatever trend dealers were trying to move that season. It was never trying to act modern. It was trying to feel familiar, and for a lot of riders, that mattered more. There is also something important about where this bike landed in a rider's life. It was not a giant dresser. It was not some oversized showpiece that needed a parade route to make sense. The Drifter fit the rider who wanted character, without needing a trunk full of speakers or a payment that felt like a pickup note. That made it easier to love. It felt like a personal motorcycle, not a corporate answer to a market segment. For men who came up around old cruisers and old tools, that distinction matters. What hurts about its disappearance is not just that one model vanished, it is that a kind of thinking vanished with it. The industry got more polished. Heritage stopped feeling lived in and started feeling packaged. The Drifter belonged to the moment before that shift took over. It reminded riders that a motorcycle could still carry romance without becoming soft, and could still carry style without looking vain. That balance is harder to find than companies like to admit. The riding experience matched the look better than expected. The Drifter was not built to scare anybody, but it was never flimsy. The seat height gave confidence at a stop. The overall weight stayed reasonable, and the power came in with easy pull that makes a back road feel longer in the best way. You did not ride it to dominate traffic. You rode it because it slowed the day down without making the machine feel lazy. A lot of experienced riders appreciate that more with age. After enough miles, drama loses to rhythm. That may be the best way to understand why this one still lingers in memory. The Drifter was a rhythm bike. It made you notice scenery, throttle feel, and the satisfaction of riding something with shape and soul. It did not need to win spec wars to earn respect. It just needed to feel right leaving a small town, rolling past an old gas station, or settling into a 2-lane road where nobody was in a hurry. It made motorcycling feel less like consumption and more like belonging. It made approximately 50 horsepower from 805 cubic centimeters and approximately 45 to 47 pound-feet of torque, using a single front hydraulic disc brake and a rear drum brake, a hydraulic telescopic front fork, and a preload adjustable dual rear shock setup. With a wet weight of approximately 542 pounds, a seat height of 29.9 inches, and a starting price of approximately $6,999. Farther up the road waits for a machine that trades nostalgia for a harder kind of muscle. Number 5. Kawasaki ZRX 1200R. There was a period when a rider could want speed, comfort, and mechanical presence without being forced into a plastic missile or a bloated tourer. The ZRX came from that moment, and it carried itself like it knew exactly who it was for. Upright bars, broad shoulders, exposed engine, and a stance that looked ready for work instead of posing. It did not need futuristic bodywork to look serious. It looked serious because everything about it suggested force held in reserve. That is a reason older riders still talk about it with more warmth than many newer machines ever earn. The ZRX did not flatter a rider with electronics or styling tricks. It respected him by giving him direct answers. Twist the throttle and it responded with strong, usable pull. Set it into a corner and it felt planted instead of theatrical. Look at it sitting still, and it carried the kind of visual honesty many modern motorcycles have traded away for sharper angles and thinner identities. The deeper appeal was not just performance, it was maturity. This was the bike for the man who still loved horsepower, but no longer wanted to fold himself into a cramped riding position just to prove he had not grown older. The seat, the bars, and the layout gave the ZRX a grown man fit. After enough years in the saddle, comfort stops being weakness and starts becoming wisdom. A machine that lets a rider stay on it longer will often mean more than one that dazzles him for 20 minutes. There was also a kind of defiance built into the ZRX. It refused to choose between eras. It carried echoes of the old superbike age, but it never felt trapped in nostalgia. It had real strength for its time, yet it still looked like a motorcycle built around an engine instead of a styling department. That balance is what made it special. Plenty of bikes are fast. Fewer feel substantial. The ZRX felt substantial in the way a good wrench feels substantial. It had weight in the hand, weight in the eye, and weight in the memory. That helps explain why its disappearance still bothers riders who came up around machines with character. A bike like this served a stretch of real life. It could commute, blast through back roads, handle a weekend run, and still draw respect at a gas pump from men who understood what they were looking at. It just needed to keep being itself. Once bikes like that vanish, the road loses another practical answer for riders who want speed without surrendering comfort and style without chasing fashion. There is a truth in that retirement for many riders. The industry got better at separating riders into categories, and worse at building motorcycles that could serve more than one kind of man. Well, the ZRX lived in the middle ground, and that middle ground used to matter. It was where a rider could have power, posture, simplicity, and daily usefulness in one machine. Today, that combination is harder to find because companies prefer cleaner market labels. The ZRX proved riders were smarter than those labels. It made approximately 110 to 120 horsepower from 1,164 cubic centimeters and approximately 78 to 82 pound-feet of torque, using dual front hydraulic disc brakes and a single rear disc brake, a fully adjustable front fork, and fully adjustable dual rear shocks, with a dry weight of approximately 491 pounds, a seat height of 31.1 inches, and a starting price of approximately $7,999. Farther ahead stands a machine that replaced upright muscle with low, hard-edged cruiser force. If you've ridden any of these machines or remember what they stood for, take a moment to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Number 4. Kawasaki Vulcan 1600 Mean Streak. Some cruisers ask for patience. This one asked for respect the moment it came into view. The stance was lower, the face was harder, and the whole machine looked like it had no interest in behaving like a lazy boulevard ornament. The Mean Streak carried the kind of attitude older riders understand immediately. It was not trying to reinvent the cruiser. It was trying to remind everybody that a cruiser could still feel sharp, planted, and ready to answer the throttle with something more serious than noise. That is what made it different from so many machines that shared the same broad category. A lot of cruisers win riders over with comfort first and presence second. The Mean Streak came at the job from another direction. It still had the relaxed posture a man wants on a long afternoon ride, but underneath that posture was a motorcycle that felt tighter, more alert, and more willing to be pushed than most riders expected from a big V-twin. That gave it a loyal following among men who liked cruiser torque, but never stopped caring about handling and brake feel. There is a real-world reason that matters. After enough years in the saddle, a rider stops being impressed by chrome alone. He starts paying attention to how a bike settles into a sweeper, how stable it feels over rough pavement, and whether the front end answers with confidence or protest when the road turns honest. The Mean Streak earned respect in those moments. It felt like a bike built by people who understood that cruiser buyers were not all the same. Some still wanted edge, some still wanted a machine that felt awake. The styling helped too, because it matched the mission. Nothing about the Mean Streak looked sleepy. The bars, the tank, the bodywork, and the wheels all pushed the bike away from nostalgia and towards something more muscular, not futuristic, not fussy, just harder. For older American riders who appreciate straight lines, visible hardware, and a motorcycle that looks like it means business, that harder shape still lands better than a lot of over-designed modern metal. Its disappearance says more than the end of one model. It points to the shrinking room for motorcycles that live between categories. The Mean Streak was not a pure tourer, not a traditional heritage cruiser, and not some high-revving sport machine with low bars and cramped knees. It lived in the middle, where a lot of experienced riders actually spend their time. That middle ground used to matter. It still does. The market just stopped rewarding it the way it once did. That is why the bike lingers in memory. It served riders who wanted torque without giving up control, style without carrying nostalgia like a costume, and comfort without accepting softness as the price. It had enough visual authority to draw a crowd in a parking lot, and enough real ability to keep a rider interested after the road stopped being straight. Machines that can do both are never ordinary. They become reference points. You felt its purpose most when ordinary roads suddenly seemed too small. It made approximately 70 horsepower from 1,552 cubic centimeters and approximately 90 to 94 pound-feet of torque, using dual front hydraulic disc brakes and a single rear disc brake, a front inverted cartridge fork, and a rear single shock with linkage. With a wet weight of approximately 660 pounds, a seat height of 27.6 inches, and a starting price of approximately $11,099. Beyond that sharper cruiser shape sits a machine that took sheer displacement and road presence to a far more intimidating level. If you care about how a bike feels after real miles, not just how it looks parked, check the description. The gear and accessories there are built around that same mindset. Number 3. Kawasaki Vulcan 2000. There are motorcycles that ask for admiration, and there are motorcycles that take up space like a piece of heavy equipment left idling in the middle of the road. The 2000 belonged to that second breed. It was not subtle, not light, and never interested in pretending that moderation was a virtue. One look at the cylinders, the tank, and the wheelbase told the whole story. This machine was built for riders who believed size still meant something, torque still mattered, and a cruiser ought to feel like it could pull the pavement toward itself. Even parked, it looked like it weighed on purpose. That feeling is what gave the 2000 its reputation. Plenty of big cruisers make a strong first impression, then start feeling ordinary once the novelty wears off. This one did not. It carried the kind of authority a rider feels before he even rolls off the clutch. The bars sit wide, the bike settles low, and the whole machine gives off the message that it was built around force first and compromise later. Older riders understand that kind of motorcycle right away because they remember when manufacturers still had the nerve to build machines around excess instead of market research. The deeper appeal was not simply that it was large. It was that the 2000 made its size feel purposeful. Some big motorcycles feel bloated, like they got heavier without becoming more meaningful. The 2000 felt different. Its sheer scale made the engine the center of the experience, and everything around it seemed arranged to serve that one fact. When a rider cracked the throttle, the bike answered with a long, heavy shove that felt more like momentum than acceleration. That kind of power delivery stays in a man's memory because it feels mechanical, physical, and old-fashioned in the best possible way. There was pride in riding something this unapologetic, not fashionable pride, not the kind that comes from owning the latest thing. The 2000 gave a rider the satisfaction of knowing his motorcycle still had some stubbornness left in it. It was a machine for men who wanted the road to feel substantial under them and did not mind wrestling real weight in exchange for real presence. That trade still makes sense to experienced riders. After enough years, you stop chasing numbers that only matter on paper and start appreciating the way a motorcycle carries itself in traffic, at a stoplight, and across a long stretch of highway. Its disappearance matters because motorcycles like this are almost impossible to justify in the modern market, unless they wear a prestige badge and a premium price. The 2000 came from a time when a company could still build a giant V-twin, because giant V-twins stirred something in riders. Today, the industry talks more about efficiency, packaging, and broad appeal. The 2000 stood against that logic. It existed because there were still riders who wanted a cruiser to feel oversized, overbuilt, and a little unreasonable. That unreasonable streak is part of what made motorcycling fun for a lot of men in the first place. It made approximately 100 horsepower from 153 cubic centimeters and approximately 135 to 141 pound-feet of torque, using dual front hydraulic disc brakes and a single rear disc brake. a telescopic front fork, and a rear monoshock with linkage, with a wet weight of approximately 770 pounds, a seat height of approximately 26.8 inches, and a starting price of approximately $13,500 to $14,500 depending on year. Higher still sits a machine that traded brute scale for the quieter dignity of serious distance. If you value honest breakdowns like this and want more straight answers about where motorcycles are headed, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming that cuts through the noise and respects what experienced riders already know about the road. Number 2. Kawasaki Concours 14. Anti-lock braking system. Long miles expose every lie a motorcycle can tell. A short test ride can flatter weak seats, hide engine heat, and make a top-heavy machine feel more graceful than it is. The Concours was built for the part of riding that cannot be faked. Cold starts before daylight. Wind that never stops. Highway stretches that make a rider listen to his back, knees, and hands. That is why its disappearance lands differently. This one mattered to riders who measure a bike by what it feels like after 400 miles, not how it photographs beside a coffee shop. There was discipline in the way the Concours approached the job. It never tried to charm the rider with aggression or luxury fluff. It gave him weather protection, speed, storage, and a riding position that respected the simple fact that grown men still want to cover ground without folding themselves into pain. Too much comfort and a machine starts feeling soft. Too much sport and the body pays for it before the tank is empty. The Concours sat in that middle ground where speed still matters, but endurance matters more. That balance is why serious riders kept defending it. The shaft drive meant fewer chain worries. The fairing worked. The bags were not decoration. The fuel range, windscreen, stability, and calm way the engine carried speed all pointed to one purpose. Keep going. That mattered deeply. You are not buying fantasy. You are buying reach. A motorcycle like this earns respect one state line at a time because it keeps asking the right question. Can you stay in the saddle and still want another 100 miles? The Concours answered yes more often than most. It had the kind of motor that made passing feel easy and the kind of chassis that kept the whole experience from turning nervous when the weather got ugly. Riders who have crossed open country know why that matters. Crosswinds, truck wash, rough pavement, surprise rain, and long hours will humble any bike built around fashion first. The Concours felt engineered for men who still believe riding across states in a day is a normal use of a motorcycle. Its retirement also says something uncomfortable about the market. The center keeps disappearing. Riders get pushed toward giant luxury tourers and stripped performance machines. The practical middle, where real speed and real distance used to coexist, keeps getting thinner. The Concours held that lane longer than many expected. It served the rider who wanted strength without theater and comfort without surrender. That rider still exists. He just has fewer honest choices now. That is why the Concours lingers in memory. It was never the loudest thing in the room. It was more valuable than that. It was dependable in the way an anvil is dependable. Heavy, yes. Serious, yes. Also ready for work every time. Riders who spent decades chasing highway, miles, ergonomics, and honest engineering know exactly what was lost here. The Concours did not promise a lifestyle. It delivered a function with dignity. It made approximately 155 horsepower from 1,352 cubic centimeters and approximately 95 to 100 pound-feet of torque, using dual front hydraulic disc brakes and a single rear disc brake with anti-lock braking system and linked braking, a 43mm inverted front fork, and a rear monoshock with remote preload adjustment with a wet weight of approximately 690 pounds, a seat height of approximately 32.1 inches, and a starting price of approximately $15,599. Only one retirement lands harder, because the final bike welcomed ordinary riders before the market made entry harder. Number 1. Kawasaki Vulcan 750. For a lot of riders, the bike that matters most is not the one that filled posters or won bench racing arguments. It is the one that made its way into a real garage, carried miles, and stayed faithful long after the payment book disappeared. The 750 lived in that part of motorcycle life. It was never built to show off. It was built to serve. And that fact is exactly why its loss still means more than bigger, louder machines that got all the attention. What gave the 750 its staying power was how honestly it fit ordinary riders. The seat was low enough to inspire confidence. The weight stayed manageable. The price left room for a man with steady work, a mortgage, and common sense. It did not require a luxury budget or a fantasy version of yourself. You could buy it, learn it, commute on it, disappear on it for a weekend, and still feel like you owned a real cruiser instead of some compromise built to hit a number on paper. That practical strength is easy to overlook when people talk about legends. They usually chase the giant engines, the paint, or the machines that turned every stoplight into theater. The 750 earned something deeper. It earned trust. Riders who spent years with one remember how naturally it fit into daily life. It started becoming part of routines, part of habits, part of family stories. Those are the motorcycles that shape a culture more than the expensive halo bikes ever do, because they are the ones regular men can reach before the industry starts pricing them out. There is also a mechanical honesty to the 750 that riders still appreciate. The shaft drive mattered. The V-twin had enough life to feel serious without becoming demanding. The posture was familiar within minutes. It did not feel like a motorcycle built by people trying to impress a boardroom. It felt like a bike built for men who still valued dependability, ease of ownership, and the satisfaction of getting on something that simply made sense. That kind of common sense engineering has become harder to find. Its disappearance tells a bigger story than one discontinued cruiser. When machines like this go away, the first rung gets farther from the ground. Returning riders lose a path back. Budget-conscious riders lose a real option with dignity. Younger riders, who might have grown into lifelong cruiser owners, get pushed toward cheaper temporary bikes or toward financing that turns riding into another monthly burden. The 750 mattered because it welcomed people in without talking down to them. That may be the hardest thing for modern manufacturers to understand. That is why it stands at number one, not for speed or intimidation, but because it mattered to more riders. It was bought with earned money, maintained by hand, and remembered with pride. It gave exactly what was needed at the right time. A motorcycle does not need to be extravagant, it just needs to be right. It made approximately 66 horsepower from 749 cubic centimeters and approximately 45 to 47 pound-feet of torque using single front hydraulic disc brakes and a rear drum brake, a hydraulic telescopic front fork, and air-adjustable dual rear shocks, with a dry weight of approximately 483 pounds, a seat height of approximately 28.9 inches, and a starting price of approximately $6,299. 6 machines gone, and with them, a way of building motorcycles that made sense to real riders. Not louder, not flashier, just honest, dependable, and built for miles that actually matter. That's the part worth holding on to. If this breakdown gave you something real to think about, like the video, subscribe for more straight answers like this, and share your take below, because the only way this stays honest is if riders like you keep speaking up.